Have you ever discovered a project that you completed and then forgot all about? That happened to me today. I was working on my laptop outside under the fall foliage, and I happened to go to my desktop, and at the top of the screen there was a movie file. I clicked on the file, and it was a 5.5-minute movie that I had completed when I was doing my Expressive Arts Therapy certificate program. I submitted that movie file as an assignment for one of the classes. I had completely and utterly forgotten about that little movie, but it was such a fun little treasure to watch it again. And I thought, you know what? That was pretty good. Maybe instead of doing these walk and talks, maybe, Dr. B, you should do some more PowerPoints with voiceover. I've heard that can be an excellent medium for delivering information. And I have so much information to share with you, my fellow creatives, on the topic of art making, creativity, productivity, motivation, inspiration, manifestation, and all those other TION words. That reminds me of a Moody Blues song. But I'm not here to talk about old music. I am here to talk about the idea that sometimes we finish projects and then we put them aside and they linger. I'm not talking about ghost projects, which I've mentioned before on this channel. A ghost project being those unfinished projects that tend to haunt you because they are not done. And those are the kinds of projects that you can benefit from and really free up some mental space if you can take the time and figure out methods to finish them. So I'll link to a video that I did on that topic here. I'm talking about those forgotten finished projects. Maybe it's a short story or two, or some poetry. Maybe it's a piece of pottery that you made in a class that you took 20 years ago. Maybe it's a woodworking project. Maybe it's a recipe file that you collected, recipes from your mother or grandmother or grandfather. And those things are such a treasure when you come across them and discover them. For me, the movie file was interesting. I remember part of the assignment, which I think was to talk about what kind of creativity I endeavor in, what is my chosen art form. And I talked about one of my favorite fashion designers, Gary Graham, who I discovered on one of those reality shows. I think it was Making the Cut. He came in second, but I loved his designs and his aesthetics. And I followed him on Instagram. And you know how Instagram is. Maybe he stopped posting, maybe I stopped liking. Eventually, his feed disappeared from my viewing. Nonetheless, couple summers ago, my husband and I took a trip to New York, specifically to Franklin, New York, where Mr. Graham has his studio. And his studio is not open to the public, but I had emailed his retail director and made an appointment so that I could go there. Me and my husband, my MacGyver, showed up at his workroom before this lovely person who was going to show us around, before she was ready for us coming from Massachusetts. I think we had misinterpreted just how long it was going to take to get there, and we showed up maybe an hour and a half early. I tried to make her feel comfortable in letting us in and looking around, but she insisted. She wanted to put some things together to show me, and also she wanted to put herself together, which, looking back, what a lovely, lovely thought that was. She needed to make sure she looked presentable as a representative of the Gary Graham line. She suggested that we go a couple doors down to have lunch, and indeed, we were starving. We found this little sandwich shop that was booming with activity. The food was delicious. The atmosphere was so cozy. Chocolate milk. Everyone was drinking chocolate milk. And Franklin, New York is kind of in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by dairy farms. I'm sure that the chocolate milk was from one of those local farms. After we had our lunch, we went back over to the studio where she graciously invited us in and showed us around. It was, for me, a moment to celebrate all things that are fashion. And in my little movie, I had pictures of me trying on different outfits and dresses and garments that Gary Graham had designed. I ended up purchasing one of those dresses, which I still have today. And I don't wear as often as I should. But the point here is sometimes we discover old projects like buried treasure. And it reminds us of a couple things. First, when you have a deadline and a reason to finish something, as I did for this course and its weekly assignments, you get the work done. Second, we often underestimate just how good our art is. When you're mired in the making, you often cannot see your craftsmanship. You're too focused on the seams being straight, the shading being perfect, the glazing being complete with no divots. Whatever art form you're working in, we can be so self-critical that we don't take the time to celebrate our own abilities. Time is a beautiful thing to gain distance from your work. If you have the opportunity to put a little time between the making of the thing and maybe the giving of the thing or the presenting of the thing. I often think of this as manifestation. If you can add in a little bit of time so that you can see your work from the perspective of an outsider. It will help you to fine-tune, to revise, and to edit. I was so happy to come across that little video. Maybe I'll get brave enough to post it. I mean, it was good and it had research. It had a works cited. Because after all, I am a researcher. So take the time, go through your old files, portfolios, the back of your closet, a sun porch, a box in the basement, a trunk in the attic. Find those things that you made before and pull them out and celebrate. Acknowledge your own greatness. I'm Dr. B, the Creativity Sensei, and I want to inspire you to do your art every day. A little bit every day. It's like an apple a day. It will keep the doctor away. Well, not me. I want to be here with you. That's it for today. Get at it. A bientôt.